I got a fantasy football video here for you. Just gonna offer up about 10 tips that I've found that can help you win at fantasy football. I'm not a professional, but these tips I've found have helped me have success in the past. I've consistently had success at winning fantasy football, just going along the guidelines of these tips, and I just wanted to share them with you guys. All right. First thing, you have to watch football. And when I say watch football, you actually have to sit down and watch the football happen. You can't just go out, draft the players, and watch the numbers and expect to be successful. Because this is a game based on football. You got to watch it. Even myself, at times, I found myself just staring at the numbers instead of actually watch the football on TV. You got to watch it. It's important. You got to watch the football happen. That's where the numbers come from. You got to know. All right, next thing. Stats, more stats. Stats are so important to fantasy football. You got to know how all the stats come into play and how they can be applied to your fantasy football team, for better or for worse. You've got to know what good stats are, what bad stats are. You got to know what they all mean. Very important. You got to look at these stats and you got to be able to analyze them, and they'll make your team better for it. Next thing, you got to know the numbers. Yeah, it means looking at the box scores. You got to look at the players, look at the players' stats, how they do in that game. But you got to know what those numbers mean. I can start listing off acronyms right now. The different types of stats and numbers that you need to know. You got YAC, ADOT, yards per carry, yards after catch. There's just so many things you got to know. And these numbers, you got to know. You win with the numbers, so you got to know what they mean. All right, this next tip I find to be one of the most important, and in the past it's definitely proved to be one of the most important. And you got to win your draft. And this is a year in advance, from the end of your last season to the beginning of the next one, and the time of your draft, that you've been doing, trying to assemble the best fantasy football team that you can. Obviously, I don't start, and every day I'm not doing research, but there's things you pick up along the way through that year that you'll know, different things about players and teams, and you'll be able to know when the draft comes how best to approach that, and certain players to avoid, certain players you want. New players coming out of the league, new players coming in. You got to know how to win your draft. It's so important. I promise you, you win your draft later on in the season, you'll be having a stress-free fantasy football season. Well, mostly stress-free. It'll be less stressful. You can put in less work and get the same awesome results if you win your draft. And it's just so rewarding to know that, hey, you did all this work on 1 hour and a half that you put in on draft day, and then months down the road, you're winning your league trophy money, whatever it is. You're winning because you won your draft. And you can just look back and point. In the season, you could look at all the people you drafted, how many are still on your team, how many were produced like they're supposed to, how many underachieved, and you can win your draft. Hopefully you have pretty positive ratings across the board. Next thing. I find it very important, at least in the past for me. It's definitely proved in multiple fantasy sports, fantasy basketball, fantasy soccer as well. You got to rule the waiver wire. I say rule the waiver wire, I mean you've got to know who's on it, what type of backups are on there. Are there guys on injury coming back? Are there people that have been dropped for someone else who can help your team but wasn't helping someone else's? You got to know who these players are, and you have to know how to ride that wave, so to speak, of the waiver wire. Some players you might want to pick up for a couple weeks because you could drop someone else, and then you can drop them. But you got to know it, because you never know, and you need those just couple games from that one player to help you win a couple games, keep you in the hunt for the playoffs, or even keep for the rest of the season, which is always a plus. If you can pick up a player from the waiver wire you didn't have to spend a draft pick on and keep the rest of the season, and you can play them every week, you struck gold there. And that's we'll come back to something I'll talk about a little bit later in the video from one of the other tips. You got to know your backups. This tip's important for more positions than others, particularly running back and wide receiver, the skill positions, because they're such volatile positions. In any moment, someone could get hurt, someone could get benched. They're just not putting up numbers, or various other reasons. You got to know these players. This can go back to the waiver wire, the draft, and trades. Players to put on your bench, to back up your starter. You gotta know these players. You never know when you have to use them. Yet sometimes they're not, but they're good to have anyways. You never know. All right, this next tip I feel is overlooked at times, but you have to shoot for consistency. When I say consistency, I don't mean a player who's going to get you 20 points every game, because you have players who will get you 20 points most of the time. Not every week, but most of the time. You want consistency. That's how you win. Yeah, those home runs are great, but if the rest of your team just eats it on that week, well, you know, you're probably gonna have a loss. But if you have a consistent squad every week, put up the same number of points, you can look less at the matchups and players on your bench. If you got consistent players putting up solid numbers, the numbers that you win with, you got to know who those players are. You got to know who the target of the waiver wire. This goes back to the draft as well and trades and all that. You got to know these players. This next tip, I feel like some people put more stock in than others. And this is, you got to look for upside. Upside is a term that can refer to intangible things such as, like, you know, they got really good hands, they're tall, they're fast, they got a new quarterback throwing to them, they've got the starting job, they don't have anyone to replace them, just opportunity, they're the one playing, so they have the chance to produce points. Those are things that go into upside. Personally, in the draft, I don't shoot for that much. I like looking in the draft. You're spending a pick on it, a guaranteed draft pick that you get. That's your time to pick any player in the player pool. You wanna really hit good on those spots that you get. So you don't want to waste those. So I look for more guaranteed than upside, but I do make sure there's upside involved with those players that I do pick. But waiver wire, very important. Leading up to the draft and that year before, between the seasons, and you're doing your research, looking at the statistics, you got to know who has the upside and who doesn't. Very important. Alright, these last two tips probably seem petty and stupid, but very important. You gotta have fun. It gets competitive because it is a game and you are competing with other people, but you gotta have fun. That's what it's about. It's football. Everyone loves it. So you just gotta remember to have fun. So you can get lost at times because most people have money on the line at times. Some people, some people out there, if they get last place in their league, they get hazed for a day or a week. So you definitely want to do your best and succeed, because no one wants to be that guy. And the last thing, you just got to get lucky. It sounds silly because you think, oh, you're just playing with numbers, you should get them right. But there's a little bit more involved in that. There's a little bit of prediction. You got to crossing your fingers sometimes. At the end of the day, that's really what you're doing, because the players, they're going out to play the best they can, and things happen. You're just hoping they produce based on the scoring system that you gave them, that they will be able to step to the plate and do how you expected them to play. And sometimes it doesn't happen. You can look at all the matchups, have drafted the best players, have made some trades, picked up the waiver wire, but I know in my experience, semifinals of in the playoffs in one of my leagues last year or a couple years ago, I had the better team. I had the better players playing. I had scored the most points, but the guy I was playing had one player who had the best game of his life that day in that game against that team. If he just scored his regular normal points, I would have won, and then I'm winning the championship. But I just got smoked because he scored almost 50 fantasy points. And then the next year I drafted him just out of spite to hope he could do the same thing for me against someone else. And that's how fantasy football is sometimes. It's something you definitely got to remember, though. Guys, thanks for watching. I just wanted to share those tips with y'all, just for anyone who plays fantasy football, or if you want to know more about it. I'm just giving you insight of what fantasy football is about. And as always, I got links in the description for social media purposes and stuff. You can find me at Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, FanCred, Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr. And then I got two friends. Also, their links to their websites at the bottom. And their clothing lines. You got NORFOLK, who's my friend Alex, and Bryn Designs, which is my friend Kylie's. You guys should definitely check them out. Their stuff is great. You won't regret it. It's some awesome stuff. Alright, stay tuned for tomorrow. I'm posting another fantasy football video. It will be draft recaps for both of my fantasy teams this year. I'm just going to run through the draft, the players I picked, why I was able to get them there, why I picked who, and a little bit about my draft strategy. Not too much, I can't review too much, don't know who's watching. But that's what will be coming up next. And also this weekend, like I said, I'm going to Greenville. So footage that's going to be awesome. And then also I am going to go thrifting, hopefully on Thursday. It is an appointment, but I'm going to take the camera with me. I'm going to go thrifting, pick some stuff up. And if things goes to plan, I will be coming home with an Xbox One. So I'll have Netflix back again, thank goodness. I missed it. And I'll review that for you. The Xbox One anyways. And it should be a pretty cool video. But yeah, until then, peace.